This is the first lesson for the Pythagorean Theorem chapter. What is the Pythagorean Theorem? The Pythagorean Theorem relates the lengths of the sides of a right triangle. It was named after a guy by the name Pythagoras who lived more than 2,500 years ago. He used the relationships between the sides of the right triangles, but he didn't use the variables that we're going to use today. Instead, he explained his idea in words. Before we get started, let's name the parts of the right triangle. The first thing that you need to know is that there are two sides that make up the right angle. They are called the legs. So both of the sides that are attached to the right angle are called the legs. My little hint for this is the fact, and let me get a highlighter to actually demonstrate this to you. If you actually look at the right angle, it creates an L, which reminds you of the word legs. Right triangles also have two legs, just like you and I do. Over on this side, the other side that is not forming the legs is called the hypotenuse. The way that you can find the hypotenuse is to take your pencil, put it in the right angle, and go across the triangle to the other side. We're going to have to be able to identify this later on because it's going to be important for us. Now, it says what's so special about the hypotenuse? If you think about a right triangle, there's 180 degrees, correct? So this being a 90-degree angle is the biggest angle in the triangle. We learned earlier this year that the longest side is across from the largest angle. Since this is the largest angle, coming across to here, this must be the longest side. So number one, it is the longest side of the right triangle. The other thing you need to know about the hypotenuse, which I can also sometimes call the hypo, because it's the biggest side, and hippos are big, it's also located across from the right angle. Now, we talked about Pythagoras relating the sides together. What we decided to do then through math is to actually put letters to it just to make it easier and more easy to understand for everybody. So what we do is we label the sides of the triangle A, B, and C. Notice they're lowercase letters. A and B are always going to be the legs. Remember, you can remember it's a leg because it forms the L together. So A and B are going to be your legs, and C is across from the right angle. This is going to be your hypo. So the formula for the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So A and B would both have lengths, actual numbers. We would take the number and square it. So we do that to this side, take this side and square it, and it's equal to this side squared. So if I look at the next page over here, when I look at this first example, I have a right triangle. Here are my legs because they form the L of the right angle. So for example, we can look at the picture up here, A, B. We can switch A and B, it really doesn't matter, but for here I'm going to label this A and this one B. This side would be C then. It's the hypo and it's always across from the right angle. So using my formula, the first thing you do is write the formula, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and then you plug in. A is actually 4, so 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c is just c, so I'm going to leave it as c squared. 4 squared is 16 plus 3 squared is 9 equals c squared. 16 plus 9 is 25 equals c squared. The only problem is this side isn't called c squared, it's just c. So we have to figure out a way just to make this c. The way that you actually undo a squared is by taking the square root. You have to do it to both sides. Your calculator has this button. It's this button right here, the square root button. So you can type in the square root of 25, and that happens to be 5, which is going to be equal to c. So c in this case is equal to 5 centimeters. More examples here. I could tell you that A is 6 and B is 8. Use the formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 36 plus 64 equals c squared. Add these together, I get 100 equals c squared. To just get c, we have to take the square root. The square root of 100 is 10. So C is equal to 10 here. Looking at number 2, formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. 10 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. So this is 100 plus this is 576 equals c squared. So this is 676 equals c squared. Take the square root, and 26 equals c. Over here we have a picture. Here's my L, so those are my legs. My legs are A and B. This side is C. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 9 squared plus 12 squared equals C squared. 81 plus 144 equals C squared. So 225 equals C squared. Divide by 225. 15 equals C. You'll notice in today's lesson, the only thing that we solved for has always been the hypotenuse. We're going to go further and go into the next steps of actually solving for a leg in the next lesson. But you can see the steps are listed up here for you. Write the formula, fill in what you have, square the numbers you have. We're skipping 4 today because C already is by itself. Take the square root of both sides and write your final answer. There's a couple word problems just to kind of get you thinking. If in a word problem, if I don't see a picture, I'm going to recommend to draw it. The legs of a right triangle are equal. Right triangle. Legs are equal, so I'm going to draw tick marks on them. Given the length of the legs, find the length of the hypotenuse. So the leg is 5 centimeters. 5 centimeters. I need to find the hypotenuse. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. 5 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. So 25 plus 25 equals c squared. 50 equals c squared, so take the square root and see. If I do the square root of 50, I get 7.07. For our purposes, we're just going to round to the nearest tenths. So 7.1, because that 7 is going to make it go up. So we're going to say 7.1 centimeters. Example 2. A bird left its nest and flew 7 miles east. Ooh. Directions here. North, south, east, west. You need to be able to know that. So left its nest. Here's the nest. 7 miles east. From this point, it flew 10 miles south. So from here, 10 miles south. East and south make a 90-degree angle. And it says, how far will the bird need to fly to return to its nest? So the bird's going to fly back this way. Notice this is a right triangle again. Here's my L, so those are my legs, so A and B. Across from it here, from the right angle, is C, the hippo. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 7 squared plus 10 squared equals C squared. So 49 plus 100 equals C squared. 149 equals C squared. Take the square root of both sides. If you do that, 12.206, so we'll say 12.2 miles to return to its nest. Final answer there. Last one for today, word problem 3. A t-ball field was set up so that there was 20 feet between the bases. So kind of think t-ball field, still going to look like a baseball diamond. There's 20 feet between all the bases. So it says one of the batters hit the ball straight to second base. How far did he hit the ball? So if this is home plate, this would be first, second, third. So to go from here straight over to here, so we're actually really just looking at this part. And if you think about the bases here, this is going to be a right angle here. So this is a leg, we'll call it A, this is a leg B, and across from it here is my hippo, my hypotenuse, C. So it says, how far did he hit the ball? So we can use the Pythagorean formula to figure that out. 20 squared plus 20 squared equals C squared. 20 squared, 20 times 20 is going to be 400, plus 400. So 800 equals C squared. Take the square root. So square root of 800 is 28.28, so we'll say 28.3. So we can say the batter hit the ball 28.3 feet. Now, something that I haven't mentioned to you too is checking about whether your answer is reasonable. Remember, the hippo has to be the longest side. So if these sides are both 20, it makes sense that this side is going to be 28. It's going to have to be longer than either of these. Kind of going back up to the bird problem, same thing. It's 12.2 miles here. That's longer than either of these. Same thing, 7.1 is longer than either of these two. That's checking your reasonableness.